Welcome to our first LinkedIn live event at the Raymond Corporation. My name is Jack Como. I'm the Director of iWAREHOUSE Technology Solutions here at Raymond. And today, and actually over the next few months, we're going to be going on live on LinkedIn with special guests from Raymond to discuss how innovative and intralogistics solutions can help our operations maintain productive and efficient environments. In today's episode, we're going to focus on the power of telematics and how operations can use this technology to maximize operations. I'd like to introduce my co-host today, Jason Fumey. Jason.
Hello, everybody. As Jack mentioned, my name is Jason Fumey. I'm the Senior Manager of Professional Services for iWAREHOUSE Solutions with the Raymond Corporation, spending a lot of time with customers and our support and solution centers, making sure that we're making data from telematics and other systems intuitive, actionable, and accessible. So we'll be talking a lot about that today, and excited to hear from you as well as we go through this event.
Okay, Jason's going to go ahead and put up an image for me that shows some of the intralogistics solutions that we specialize in. I'm going to go through that briefly, but before I do, I want to talk a little bit about what telematics are. If you hear telematics and you know anything about it, you understand that traditionally it started in the automotive market. And the whole preface and very simple way to talk about telematics is that it is a platform for anybody who has an asset to understand what that asset's been doing, who's been using it, and how it's been used. And that's exactly what we do. Since 2008, Raymond has been promoting telematics into the field of warehousing and distribution. We have almost 100,000 assets in the field today, actively reporting and providing valuable information to various customers. You'll hear me throughout this talk about how telematics is a platform or a foundation for other technologies that Raymond offers. We did that on purpose. We really believe that our customers should start with telematics and then build off of that platform and then use that solution to really provide information that's valuable to them in their environment, which Jason will be talking about here in a little bit. So some of the things that use that as a platform that I want to talk about really quickly, and then we'll dive into the topic at hand, is virtual reality. So we have a virtual reality system that connects right to a Raymond truck or a fake truck, which we call a buck, and that system is meant for new operators and training environments for our customers so that they can get their operators up to speed quickly, efficiently, and consistently. Along with the telematics offering, and our by far most popular combination offering is our labor management system. It's very unique in the way it operates. It's data centric, uses various data sources from whomever is using it. Most of our customers who use this are seeing the value in it right away. Within weeks, they see data and reports. And so it's very powerful in its approach and the opportunity to understand labor, and the labor market today we know is very difficult. We have a location tracking system, which we call RTLS. So you'll hear us refer to that as RTLS. RTLS works directly with the iMonitor in the telematics offering, displays information that's applicable to the location of assets and associates in any building. In-aisle detection is just exactly what it sounds like. It helps trucks notify other trucks when they're near each other in an aisle, also bring them to a slow and full stop so that an incident does not occur. We have zoning and positioning, which is for order picking customers. It uses the iMonitor as a guide as well, helps communication with the customer's WMS system to make sure that order picking is done in an efficient manner inside of an order picking environment. And probably our most popular offering now is automated vehicles. And all of this that I've been talking about, and the platform that we have, is all contributing towards our Raymond Lean management approach. And what we have is the ability to send in a professional from Raymond, look at your operation, individuals from Jason and his team from our professional services offering, help you look at the data and analytics to make sure you're making the right decisions to make your operation more efficient. The professional services team is dedicated to do that. And an ultimate goal, if you have it, to get to automation is there and available for you to use. So that's the whole shebang, everything that we have in our offerings from a solution perspective. And remember that the telematics piece that we're going to talk about today, it is very valuable, but it is also something that we use as a platform and a foundation to move customers to other solutions. I'm going to turn it over to Jason now. He's going to talk a little bit more about telematics and some of the stuff it can offer.
Thanks, Jack. And one thing, just to reiterate Jack's components here, is telematics becomes very foundational with this. And what we often talk about with our support and solution centers, along with our customer base, is that we know you're excited for automation, and we know in uncertain times there's always that next item that you're looking for to help drive your performance, increase productivity, and lower costs. So we kind of have that mentality that future technologies not only require, but also enable continuous optimization. And we do that through our Raymond lead management, through our professional services teams, by identifying inefficiencies in your operation. And a lot of that conversation really turns into what we call, total cost of ownership. So when we're talking about synergy now, it's bridging the gap between the physical, our trucks, and our technological stuff, so our warehouse technology solutions. That data convergence, being able to use and apply that data, really allows us to tell the story of your success as customers and improved ownership opportunities. So it's all about using our suite of solutions with support from our solutions and support centers and our PS team to really help optimize space, performance, utilization, so that we can make sure that you're allocated with the right resources and the right labor force to get the work done that's required in your operation. I'm going to stop sharing for a moment just to have a quick conversation with everybody. A lot of what we see now, obviously, in the circumstance with COVID-19 is a time of uncertainty. So that's where we'd like to say, fleet management program that includes telematics becomes a super valuable tool, because you're able to start seeing what you weren't able to see before. And that's going to help you start making decisions and be prepared if there is another unexpected change that occurs. And it's all about what we're seeing, more customers being aware and looking for that kind of information. And we've seen a huge increase in demand for our telematics systems.
Hey, Jay, I just want to interrupt real quick and welcome. I see 20 new people just joined, which is awesome. Glad you all could show up. As Jay and I are talking, please use the comment section to ask questions throughout. And we'll be sure to get to those questions. And at the very end, we'll definitely go through all the questions that we have time for. So please, if you think something you're wondering about, jump into that comment section, write it down, and then we'll be watching it and answer them as best we can, okay? Back to you, Jay.
So I think a lot of our conversations when we talk about telematics and what it can do for you is first and foremost accountability and visibility. So by allowing access control, we're now aware of which operators are operating our equipment, making sure that they're certified to do that, to operate that equipment, and that we're completing our OSHA required checklist at the truck. It's also giving us a lot of information in real time on the health of our vehicle, the number of vehicles in use, and how our operators are being used. So when we're talking about the big picture, you think about scenarios like people, process, and plant. And as you're considering automation or other solutions, I always ask our customers, and especially our folks in the field, be aware of what problem you're trying to solve. So as Jack mentioned, if you've got comments or questions to share, or you've got things that you're facing within your operation, feel free to add them in the comments. We'd love to address those. But we're seeing that telematics has really positioned our customers well for uncertain times, because they're that much more aware of what their operation is. So they've had that added visibility. They're aware of their usage. They're aware of their capacity and how they could leverage their people and their equipment. And it's really positioned them well to handle an uncertain time.
So one thing I wanted to point out, in addition to what Jason's talking about, is with the telematics system, it has what we call access control. And the access control not only will allow a certified person to operate that piece of machinery, but it also tracks who's operated it. And so from the perspective of understanding who's been on what machine at any time, for how long they've been on the machine, what they've been using it for, all of the activity that they may have put on that machine and the details around it are all captured in our gateway reporting. And so in the uncertain times like COVID-19, if you have the understanding and want to understand who's been doing what and what machinery they've been using, and even now today where that has been, where they have been throughout the warehouse, that opportunity exists. And again, the telematics piece is the foundation and the platform to get you started doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing a lot of big use, and customers are asking for ways to figure out how can we identify who's in our building, who's been on pieces of equipment, and how we can use that information for risk mitigation and for other insights beyond just our typical telematics offering. So I think what customers are doing is they're making us become more creative with how we can leverage the data that's available from our telematics solution, but it's also helping us drive what that next step looks like, whether it's a labor consideration, whether it's a different type of mix of their fleet, or if we're having conversations related to automation, labor management, the virtual training. We're seeing a lot of folks who may not be dealing with a drop in their workload. They're seeing a huge increase given the industry that they may be supporting, but a shortage of labor who's showing up to do that work. So how can we best be positioned to make sure that we've got the people, the process, the equipment in place to come up with answers to those challenges?
Yeah, really good, Jay. I think the idea behind the telematics and what we see a lot of customers do is they and actually in the beginning when we first started offering telematics to our customer base, we learned really quickly that the idea of telematics is very relevant to every one of our customers. In fact, it's more of a staple than an addition today. Almost every customer we have that buys lift trucks from Raymond is enjoying telematics now. And so from the beginning, it was understood that the information, the data that's presented in the telematics offering is key. But the really hard part is, what do you do with that data? And Jason, I know you like to say that your data tells you a story. And I think you should talk a little bit about that, because in your interactions with various different companies in the warehousing business, what kind of stories have you heard and what kind of data have they been using to help make their operation more efficient, or in times like COVID-19 help them out?
For sure. I'm actually going to share a graphic real quickly that will help support this a little bit too. A lot of what we offer to our customers is considerations, but also to say it's not just enough to have data, it's there to understand how to use it, apply it, and again, make it actionable. So a lot of the requests we're getting from customers is how to best use that data to manage their solutions. So they might be considering an automated process, or especially in the terms of COVID-19, we're getting a lot of folks who are hiring people who have never touched a forklift before or any kind of power industrial vehicle. So that's where the virtual reality training really comes in handy to help people determine, are you ready and able to operate a piece of equipment, and can we make sure that we're managing that learning experience for them to make sure that they're well trained for that equipment. So we, with Raymond, oftentimes look to that optimize before you automate mindset. It starts foundationally again with understanding the problems we're trying to solve. And telematics as a baseline really helps establish those bottom line current state efficiencies. So a lot of what our team's efforts do from a professional services and lean management standpoint is work with our customers to understand their operation, but also see what changes are ahead for them. So understanding their current, non-pandemic peaks, their changes, their seasonality, any rental considerations, how we can use data and technology, that synergy that I talked about, to establish those baseline efficiencies. From a total cost of ownership standpoint, that helps us identify outliers that may be driving costs or inefficient or drawing down our processes. So how can we then use data and technology to optimize those operations? Those visual cues, again, people, plant, process. How do we make sure that we get those fine-tuned? And our customers are coming to us looking for, do I need those rentals? And a lot of times it's, if we better use the equipment that we already have, we'd be just as good than if we were to get more rentals. And now we've saved a lot of money by not expending that extra cost. And ultimately, the conversation leads to, are you even ready for automation or other operator assist technologies? So this allows us to talk to our customers, determine readiness, and analyze the priorities for implementing some automated solutions. And I think that, Jack, is what we're seeing a lot through our customer base is we want to make sure that we're offering a low risk environment, that we've got people who are certified and active, and that they're optimizing the use of the equipment we have. So how can we make sure that we're using the data to tell that story? And Jack's right. My mantra is data tells a story, what's yours? And a lot of that stems from the fact that you can't do anything if you're not collecting data and you don't know your baseline. You can't start that story. So figure out what your story is. And a lot of our foundational processes with telematics helps identify some causality and at least identifies the problem that we're trying to solve. And key component for us is change management. How do we make sure that we're involving the right stakeholders to be part of the solution as we move this forward? And ultimately, we found that customers who are well-versed in their telematics data, who have those conversations with their supervisors and associates on the floor, are setting themselves up for success.
Thank you, Jason. I just want to remind everybody, if you have questions, comments, or anything you're curious about that we're talking about, or you want to hear more of, please put it in the comment section and we'll address it when we see it, or at the end, depending on how we get on roll here. Jason, a couple of things that I know are popular right now, and one that's not as popular as our customers understand, and one that they're talking about all the time, I'd like you to talk a little bit about. The first one is the one that most of our customers don't think about, and that is the culture change. So when you put a technology in a warehouse, it does cause a culture change. Things have to be done differently. And the information that's being collected really can help you understand that. But also, that information may not be any good if they're not adjusting their culture. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And then I think probably the most powerful piece of any solution that we have right now is the whole idea of labor. How does telematics help labor become more efficient? What does it do to help the labor issues that our customers are seeing today? Those two things.
Sure. The big component for us in all of this, Jack, to your point, is understanding how to have these conversations. And that's where a lot of our support and solution centers, along with our professional services and lean management teams, help guide those conversations, because a new technology in a place that may not have had it before really does come down to change in the culture at a facility. So we work hard with site leadership to make sure that we're communicating even before the system's installed as to expectations, what we expect to see. I like to view it as, leveling the playing field. Yes, we've had added accountability and visibility by the access control feature, but we're also ensuring that only those who are certified to operate equipment in that building are doing so. And that's a benefit for everyone in that facility, to make sure that we're mitigating risks by not having unauthorized users access that equipment. And because now we're tracking their use of equipment and understanding by doing some integration with WMS systems and labor management insights, we can say, hey, does this process or this utilization make sense for what you'd expect out of your operation? It may sound weird coming from a company that manufactures forklifts, but we are often telling customers that they could do with less. And a lot of that comes down to building relationships and being a solutions provider for those customers. So we look at end goals. Again, what is our objective with including these systems? How do we leverage our equipment, our labor? And a lot of that comes down to fleet right sizing and fleet right typing. In the last 3 months, have probably had about 5 different customers that we recommended a fleet reduction for, or a reduction that includes a swap of model types to make sure that they're doing their processes most efficiently. And when you talk about that from a labor standpoint, it really is not always replacing or removing, but reallocating. And especially if you're a customer who has multiple sites that you're managing, the opportunity to leverage that equipment at a different facility that you may see higher use in, or a different type of problem that can be solved with that equipment, we look for all those opportunities. I do want to show one more thing related to kind of baselining those scenarios that comes down to the process optimization component. So this looks at a mix of what we would call telematics in general, but also what we work with from our Raymond lean management perspective. So Jack, you mentioned that telematics can be a disruptive technology itself. It becomes a change management conversation. And a lot of companies are looking for it because of unexpected circumstances, competition from the field, supply chains, changing norms. We're also seeing a lot of our networks see that there's a request for, last mile or e-commerce related items with quick turnaround and little error. So the value of understanding from a very baseline lead management standpoint, in addition to telematics foundations, really does help benefit, streamlined operations. As I mentioned, the well-used resources and mitigated risk. You're going to get some consistency because now we're training our team members to be aware of what's available to them and how to use it. And again, end-to-end visibility. So data tells a story. Now we have to go and make it actionable and usable. And that change management conversation is really where our professional services and lean management teams shine as we start identifying the opportunities and recommendations. At the end of the day, it's a tool. We, in our network, often use the gym membership analogy where you can have it, but just by having it isn't going to drive change. So you want to make sure that you've got people who act as those personal trainers. They want to set the goals for you. They want to drive you towards success, and they want to make sure that you're identifying the next steps. And we do a little bit of hand-holding in these scenarios to make sure that we're getting the buy-in and help with the coaching and conversations with the site level folks. So again, anybody on the line that may have examples they want to share or stories they want to ask about, feel free to do that in the comments, and we'll be addressing those towards the end. Especially we know that there's some circumstances now that unexpected circumstances really is highlighted with our current COVID-19 situations.
Hey, Jason, I'm going to actually read a question from Abigail because it applies to what you were just talking about. And so we can answer it right now. So thank you first, Abigail, for putting your question in. Abigail's question is, are there steps end users can take to build flexibility into their fleets to prepare for and or respond to unanticipated change?
That is a great question, and one that we're seeing a lot of right now. What are customers requesting from us, and what do they need to be aware of? So I'd say if you aren't considering telematics yet, it would be something to consider because, again, it provides that initial baseline component. And I feel like I'm just going to be the man of slides today because here's a couple of data tips too that we're talking about with some of our overcoming challenges. If you give me just 1 second, I'll share this for you guys. So this is a lot of the tools that we look at, what we call very short, smart tips. So overcoming data challenges helps us build flexibility. So right now, you can't improve what you don't measure. So if you don't have any measurement tools in place, if you're not tracking your maintenance costs, your usage, these are some things that you can start considering. Visualize improvements with some lean management considerations, doing some 5S, eliminating waste, doing some Kaizen events with your team to make sure that what our current state is actually efficient. You may find that what you have in place is really good for those peak and unneeded moments, and that can help you leverage how to respond when uncertainty does happen. So we often talk about this outside of pandemics, just for seasonality with rentals and various usage agreements, that because we're aware of the utilization of your equipment by true data usage, we can make recommendations of whether it's a good investment to own that truck for a whole year or to rent it for a specific period of time that we know that usage is elevated. Again, invest in telematics. That becomes a really good entry-level indicator for all those elements of accountability, visibility, monitoring impacts and potential damage that may occur in your facilities. We get the utilization from both an operator and a vehicle perspective. And because of our electronic checklist, there's immediate insights into potential maintenance needs that can help us react to those quicker rather than finding issues way down the line. So we're improving our OSHA compliance, we're doing proper inspections. And the next step of that becomes that labor management system. If you're not aware of what your people are doing throughout a day, it's not going to be beneficial for you. So we often challenge our customers to understand what happens from clock in to clock out. And just because somebody moved a lot of product in a day, there could be other elements that may factor into what we call like a quality labor score. So they may have moved a lot of equipment, but they may have also had a lot of damage with impacts that may have negated that gain. So the analyzed data component becomes a huge aspect of this in overcoming challenges. And I think a lot of it is being aware of your current state. Talk to your local sales and service centers, talk to those that are representing your equipment, because they're going to be able to leverage either their own expertise or those that we have within our Raymond Corporation network to make sure that we're providing examples, resources, and recommendations to make sure that you're able to navigate those uncertain times.
Thank you, Jason. I feel bad. We have another question that Kate put in. I don't want to leave her hanging because it's the only other one we have right now. So I'm going to go ahead and ask that. I'm going to read that question now. And I think I can answer the beginning part of this, Jason, but then you might be able to add some more flavor to it. Kate's question is, has the pandemic changed what your customers are requesting from you? If so, how? And Kate, what I can say is yes, absolutely. So if our customer hadn't realized before that they had labor issues, trust me, they are right now. And it's different than it used to be. It used to be they couldn't find people, period, because the unemployment rate was so low, and they were really having trouble trying to find good people to come in and work. But now, even when they find people, they're not showing up to work because of the pandemic. And so the people that do show up, they need to be able to measure them and understand how well they're doing, or give them the opportunity to do well and pay them more or do something different than they've done before. So it is quite challenging right now, to the point where we have a lot of customers that are screaming towards automation because of it, because automation does allow you to reallocate your labor resources appropriately. And then the automation piece takes away some of the monotonous work that maybe you don't want a human doing. So I think that it has changed a lot, and it's really been challenging for everybody. But our approach has also changed. So Jason and his team exist for these exact reasons. And when a customer has a problem or needs help with the information, they really need to understand that what they can do differently. And I think that that's really important for them to do. And by the way, if a customer is ever looking to gain ROI out of telematics or any of our technology offerings, guess who also helps them do that? Jason and his team. So if we understand what your problem is and what you're trying to solve, your ROI will circle around that, and we're going to tell you and help you do things that are going to help you achieve that faster and get your money back and more after that. Anything else to add, Jay?
You're going to be shocked. I don't have a slide for this one, but I can talk about this one. It's a great question, and it's something that we talk about a lot with, what are the customers looking for and requesting of us that might be outside the norm given our current situation. I think a lot of what our customers are looking for is information. So that visibility that we talked about on utilization, how and when their forklifts are used, which has made the telematics increase that we've seen that much more obvious, so that they're looking for how they can allow their managers to make what we call database decisions. So now you've got that tool providing the information. How do I reallocate equipment? I might not be looking to replace people necessarily, but how do I get the most out of them, reallocate them, repurpose them, put them on value-added tasks? And that could be inside your current facility to balance utilization, or again, for any of your facilities or operations that may have multiple locations, if there's a need in another facility with unanticipated shortage. So we definitely have seen that increase in the request for telematics. Obviously now there are fewer face-to-face meetings, but that's leveraged the importance of open and frequent communications. And because we have ability to access customer data remotely, we can see how, while we change the way we communicate with our customers, we're not changing what we can provide to them. And I've had a couple customers, one was in St. Louis, it's a food distributor, who had that exact conversation that Jack was talking about, where huge increase they're providing to grocery stores mostly. So while some customers and industries were seeing decreases, they were seeing a huge surge in their hour meter usage of trucks, but also trying to accommodate that with about 20% of their workforce not showing up for work for various reasons. So they were able to leverage the use of their equipment, understand the resources that they had, to really start optimizing how to get to where they needed to be to meet that same level. One benefit that we had that we acknowledged through their whole time period is that they increased their deadman hours in 3 months, probably about 60%, but actually saw a huge reduction in their impacts during that time. So they had created that culture of, mitigating risk, learning how to drive, with being aware of your surroundings. And it all comes down to those people, process, and plant conversations of, what is contributing to our successes, but also things to be aware of within our warehouse. And I think that's a huge component of where we're going to next. One of the items that we hear a lot too for requests to our sales and service center is battery management, right? So if you've got a lot of fleet that's unused and a lot of batteries that are unused, how can we make sure that we're monitoring them correctly to mix that up and make sure that we're not depleting the life of it by just having it sit on a rack or a shelf somewhere, to make sure that we're properly maintaining it, even with low use, or swapping as necessary to make sure we're extending the life of that for when we do need it.
Awesome. Hey, we've got an awesome audience. We have more questions flowing in, which is great. One I want to address right now because I'm sure this is on a bunch of people's minds, and that's from Andrea. Her question is, what if you have a mixed fleet? Can the system work on other OEMs? Andrea, the answer is yes, absolutely. In fact, about 30% of our telematics units are on other than Raymond equipment. And we understand why you have a mixed fleet. We wish you didn't, wish you had all Ravens, but we also understand that you want the data. So definitely you can use it, and the information that Jason and his team are collecting comes in the same way into the same system, and it's not a problem. So we're good at that. We've done it many, many, many times. All right. Jason, is there anything else you want to talk about before I go to more questions?
I actually wanted to hit on the question from Ben. He asks, how does Raymond help customers learn to leverage the data that's gathered, and continues to ask, how does Raymond assist with implementing the improvements that are suggested? This is very much part of my role and my team's role, along with our sales solutions and support centers. They have a wealth of knowledge from their Raymond Lean Management components, and they're experts as well in some of this operational success. So a lot of it is step one, analyzing the data. So we do, every Raymond implementation of iWAREHOUSE includes what we call a post-implementation visit, where we're verifying data quality, data flow, and making sure that the usage that we're seeing on the equipment matches the expected outcome for the operation. That's followed up by engagements with a member of our professional services teams. We try to trigger a 90-day post-go-live engagement that really starts with that, here's what you look like with telematics to help those baseline efficiencies that we talked about. That usually identifies some low-hanging fruit related to what I call more behavior-related metrics. So with the system now, once you're logged in, we want you to make sure that you're logging off as well, to make sure that you're responsible only for the work that you're doing on that truck. And we have components that also look at completion times on the electronically completed checklist. So we can verify if folks are finger whipping through that checklist, or if they're doing their due diligence to take a proper amount of time to complete those checklists. So those conversations happen both with the customer present and with our solutions and support centers representatives there as well. And we really look at what I see in the data. So again, I'm seeing it from that data perspective in our gateway reporting portal. May have some knowledge of the operation, but a lot of it is that back and forth relationship that we build to make sure that what I see from a 30,000 foot view of the data jives with what they know about their operation. So a lot of the data initially makes me ask questions. Does this make sense for the processes that you'd expect these operators to perform? Or do you expect higher usage out of the equipment that you'd have? So when we look at some things like a vehicle heat map that we have that records how much in a given hour a vehicle was used, both by deadman or travel or lift metrics, we can say, hey, you've got 20 reach trucks, and there's 5 of them that aren't averaging more than 5 minutes of login time any given hour. And that's where we start leading those conversations into, is there an opportunity to remove or replace these based on the processes that might be happening? So it very much is a concerted effort. I'll admit that the change management component becomes the most ongoing and continuous improvement component. So we make initial recommendations. A lot of that has to be communicated operationally through the ops managers, the supervisors, because at the end of the day, the people who drive the success of that system are the associates at the ground level who are operating those equipment pieces. So we make sure that we leverage the conversations. A lot of it becomes a carrot, not the stick mentality. So how can we highlight things that are happening, identify opportunities and efficiencies, but then just have conversations and coaching opportunities that will drive some of that change? So great question. It's definitely one of our huge areas of focus and why we really stress the value of professional services with a telematics offering to be your partner in that ongoing success.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay. So another question came in from Shannon. And her question is, what are the material handling trends are becoming more popular? And Shannon, I think I can talk about this one a little bit. So I touched on it a little bit earlier where our customers who are having labor issues, they're looking for something to help them with their labor problems. And so what we've developed at Raymond is what we call assist technology. Or you could call it semi-automated if you want to call it that. And what it does is it takes away some of the labor requirement in various tasks they do. The zoning and positioning piece is a good example of that. And what it does is zoning and positioning will communicate directly with the customer's WMS system. The WMS system will communicate down to the truck level where the operator is. The operator has the ability to select the next pick in the zoning and positioning monitor. And then once they've selected it, all the operator has to do is advance the truck using the handle. And the truck will go to the exact location of the pick of requirement in the most efficient route. And the whole idea behind that is that in our investigation and Jason's team's investigations, we've uncovered through telematics that operators are not using the best path, or they're doing a lot of travel with the wrong pieces of equipment, or they're taking the wrong path to get to the pick. They're either driving all the way on the floor and then going up, or they're going all the way up and then driving it elevated, when the best route may be to do a gradual increase. So the zoning and positioning piece still requires labor to be on the truck, but it does take away the process of them trying to understand the most efficient path. Those are good. That's a good example of the trends that we're seeing and what's happening today. Anything to add there, Jay?
I think kind of just going off of that is more of the technology related items. Our customers are actually, I think, helping us advance some of our solutions quicker than we would have expected, or also repurpose the kind of end expected use. So I'll use our RTLS system that Jack mentioned as an example. Being aware of who's in a facility and their proximity to other people has become a huge thing. So our RTLS offering, initially designed to be able to track assets, people in the building, keep out zones, and being aware of where things are happening within the warehouse. We've had customers come to us looking how to apply that for social distancing aspects. So we can make alerts and recommendations and be aware of when people come in too close of a proximity to another user. Beyond the RTLS, even just with our telematics offering, because we have visibility into a user who's been badged onto a specific piece of equipment, if we find that perhaps an operator had tested positive or there's a concern about that operator, we can also look historically at that day on given timestamps as to what other users may have interacted with that piece of equipment, and then they can follow any specific protocols they have. So I think people are looking for ways to leverage existing technologies, not only for their expected uses, but also for some creative out-of-the-box ways to be mindful of who's in their building, how they're working, and where they're working.
Awesome. Jason, you see that question that Kristen just put in. I feel like she's trying to give you a gimme there. So I'll let you go ahead and read the question and answer it. I got my favorite, so I'll answer after you.
So Kristen is asking, what report is our favorite within the iWarehouse Gateway. So for those that may not know, the iWarehouse Gateway is the reporting portal that our telematics system feeds. It's the very intuitive user interface that is available to our customers. It's where I spend the most of my time because I look at the data for a lot of our customers with building data reviews and having conversations. This is a very tough question because I could talk for about 3 days on the Gateway and all the available stuff. I think one of my favorites, and I always get laughed at when I talk about this, is we have what we call a system log-off report, and I can see Jack's already rolling his eyes. So I talked earlier about behavior and how that can really drive metrics that we see. So we have what we call a inactivity timeout that is configured for every vehicle in the facility that's on the iWarehouse telematics system. So it basically means if an operator has not logged off their equipment and that truck is not registering any activity, whether it's dead man, travel, lift, that the system will time itself out based on that. And that generates what we call a system log off. That to me is a huge, especially for our first data reviews, a huge tell on where I might see that breadcrumb trail go beyond that conversation. So if I look at a facility that may have a 10-minute inactivity timeout on all of their vehicles, whether it's pallet trucks, reach trucks, counterbalance, that means that if we have a high percentage of system log-offs that we see at that facility, then we're biasing and exaggerating the login time of that operator on that vehicle. So now there's some bias occurring towards utilization, right, for both the operator and that piece of equipment. And when it comes to access and control and accountability, one of our first recommendations is make sure to log off that vehicle when you're not actively using it or when you're not in visible sight of it. And again, that will cover your own butt for the work you're performing, but also make sure that we get a true glance at usage of that equipment. And often what we'll see is if we see a high number of system log-offs, we start looking at metrics like login time of operators compared to actual time engaging the dead man and ready to operate that equipment. And we identify a lot of inactive time. So that's usually our first indicator that we might have opportunities to address behaviors first before we start diving into other recommendations for coaching opportunities. And it's usually as simple as a conversation to the associate to make sure you're logging off when you're not actively using that truck. And then again, once we're starting to make those big picture fleet recommendations, we've got a more true picture of the usage of that equipment.
All right, so mine is mine's a tie among a bunch of reports because I really like the snapshot reports. And the reason why is because it provides a lot of information in one screen. So you can get everything from utilization impacts, some of the stuff that Jason's talking about. You can see alerts that have been sent out. You can see trends, you versus everybody else, a truck versus the whole fleet, and so on and so forth. So the snapshot report's a good one for like a supervisor or a manager that wants to look at their person or their people or their trucks or their facility in one single report where they can see trends and how things are going. One thing I do want to mention is that the Gateway, we are continuously updating it based on our customers' feedback and what they like, what they don't like, things they want to see changed or added or removed. And we have a big change coming up with the Gateway 3.0 coming up here very soon, where we're going to take a lot of the stuff we've heard from our customers, incorporate it into it, and make it even better than it is right now. So it's something to look forward to anybody who has iWAREHOUSE Telematics right now. All right. Abigail has a question that I'll go ahead and address. And her question is that we mentioned earlier that iWAREHOUSE Telematics is foundation for other technology solutions like RTLS. How do we use telematics with RTLS and what added functionality will it bring? So great question, Abigail. Jason touched on this a little bit earlier with the idea of social distancing and using it as a system like it wasn't originally meant to be used. But before I talk about that, I do want to mention that we are going to have more of these LinkedIn Live events. And our next LinkedIn Live event is going to be on RTLS and all about it. We're going to talk more about it and what it can offer to anybody who's interested in it. So if a location tracking inside the inner walls of your warehouse is interesting to you, it's something you're going to want to attend. The RTLS system really looks at the telematics information and takes it to the next level. A good example is we hear this all the time, and we see it all the time. As soon as telematics is implemented, we typically see a reduction in the 50 percentile range of impacts because now people are being held accountable. Supervisors are talking to them about what they are doing, and the operators understand that that they need to be more careful or do things differently. And when there is an impact today, when you don't have telematics, and anybody who has been in a warehouse environment knows this happens, a person will abandon that truck, and you'll never know who did it or what the impact happened. And even worse, product damage or rack damage or something that might have happened. RTLS brings a whole new environment into that where when there is an impact, you can now tie where the impact occurred. And since our system is sub 1 meter range, so basically the size of a pallet or smaller, you could go to the exact location of where that impact occurred, look at the product, look at the rack, obviously the truck and the person, and see the damage that may have occurred. So that's a great way of how RTLS and telematics start working together. Anything else, Jason?
I think just beyond the RTLS in general, it's part of that conversation we talked about before, being able to leverage, in our world, the Raymond suite of solutions and professional services support to determine your readiness and analyze priorities. So I think being able to start with, whether it's a lean management practice, whether it's virtual reality training, once you get your foot in the door, we're starting with a data story. And then the goal is to leverage that for a data story with integrated intelligence. So you're looking at other technology solutions. We talked about before when considering automation as an option, the first thing that we want to ask that organization is, what problem are you trying to solve? And a lot of that might be resource availability, replacing other technology, reducing or reallocating labor, reducing risk becomes a big part of that conversation. So a big ask of us is, understanding the root issue of what you're trying to solve, because that's going to help us drive down the right direction or offer the right solution for you. So we talked earlier about people, process, and plant. I'm going to add a couple more P's: problem solving and price. So think about all the stuff we talked about today, even just beyond telematics. What are you doing, or how are you currently tracking labor? Is it effective in providing what you need? Maybe that might lead you towards more of a labor management consideration. Look at your processes. Have you employed lean practices? Are you looking how to reduce waste and maximize material flow through your facilities? Are there more steps you could be taking? When we talk about optimization, P for price, I often say that the ROI that we've helped customers achieve with some of these solutions has self-funded their advancement down this path of navigation towards automation. And the idea of problem solving really comes down to planning, right? So again, getting the key stakeholders to play that game, be part of the conversation, being aware of the problem we're trying to solve, that's what's going to help a lot in the change management component. And I think that is a good segue to my last screen share that I'd like to provide. And this is just a quick glance at some of the tips that go in concert with what we shared before. And this is on the Raymond website, raymondcorp.com. We can provide this link as well, but it's just under services. But it's nice little vignettes that look at various tips to solving some of these challenges. So you're looking at lead management, overcoming data issues and challenges, optimizing your workforce, considerations for parts and order picking. So a lot of different industry-specific conversations that Raymond's looking to provide great, quick, and easy tools and tips for. So definitely leverage this for some of your conversations with your local support and solution centers, because this can go a long way in putting you on the right path for those considerations.
Awesome, thank you, Jason. Okay, everybody, we're gonna wrap up, but I want to mention that you have the ability to take a link to this video and share it throughout your organization to whomever you'd like, and it also will be posted, and you can comment to the video down below, and somebody at Raymond will get back to you directly to have a discussion with you if you have any questions. And of course, if you want to reach out to Jason or myself specifically on LinkedIn, we are on there, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And again, thank you very much, and we hope to see you at our future LinkedIn Live events.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.